entered in with that idea was I gave it to the designers and I said I'm really interested in the Macbeth sort of drowning in the metaphor of blood, which I think can represent guilt, shame, horror, all of that. So Paulo, our senior designer, is here, and he really took that idea and went with it in such a kind of gloriously beautiful and yet scary way. And our lighting designer was reading it as well. And so that theme continues to come up. Children, that was one that I think is sort of my own. I mean, it's definitely in the play. I haven't seen a Macbeth with 6 or 7 children in it before. And so that was a theme that I latched onto early because I realized we would be doing it outside and it would still be pretty light out at the beginning of the summer. And so I thought, well, how to bridge the gap between that glorious sort of 8 p.m. gloaming golden light, and then the script says thunder, lightning, witches. So I decided to sort of take that idea, you know, if you're a child and you're playing and it's 8 o'clock and it's probably almost going to be time that you have to go home. And something tragic just happens to occur. And so I don't get to it today because I don't know if everybody's seen it yet. So I decided to take this theme of children and sort of weave it in and out through the piece. Yes, unnatural versus the natural world. Obviously, I was really interested in because I'm not that interested in politics with this play. I was more interested in the visceral, emotional, and sort of the supernatural versus the natural world. And the idea that if the country is only as healthy as the moral compass of its leader. And so, it's like obvious, dramatic tension ensues.
You know, one of the things that I was really struck by, oftentimes productions do lean into politics for this play. So it's 1606, but in 1605, a huge political thing happens in England, the gunpowder plot. So you might know about Guy Fawkes Day. This is when they took barrels of gunpowder, 36 barrels of gunpowder, put them in Parliament, and it was a domestic terrorist attempt to blow up Parliament with the King in Parliament. These were Catholic revolutionaries. They were caught, they were burned at the stake, and many scholars and many productions really lean heavily into that political. One of the things that I like to say to my students when I teach this play, and so I was thrilled to see it, because I didn't dramaturg this one, I'm with you, so I saw it. Great. I saw it for the first time last night, so we're on the same page. I was so struck by the theme of blood and children. I like to say to my students that there are 2 ways to make kings, and they're both bloody. One is childbirth, and one is birth. Right? So you either inherit the throne or you kill someone to get it. And I thought that the show really resonated in that way with that particular theme. Looks like we have some hands up already. Let's start.
Okay, so the little girls grew up to be the witches, right? I like that interpretation. Who is the little boy who dies on the stones? I think he's not really in the play that Shakespeare wrote. That was a director's addition. It's sort of a metaphor about something happening, you know, making one decision and it just happens to go awry in that one. Those children were very creepy as they were going along. Thank you. The tattooing. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me about that choice?
Sure. So we, David Mickelson, our costume designer, and I talked about old Celtic, sort of traditional paganism. I was really interested in sort of going towards the pagan world. You know, if you think of the Macbeth world, seems to live. He does talk about God maybe once, whereas Duncan was probably much more Christian, and I wanted it for Macbeth to be more pagan, and Apollo put runes and all these sort of ancient mystical
symbols into our world. And then we kind of spun on that a little bit because we realized, well, if this comes from the unnatural world as well, it's linked to the unnatural or supernatural world, that the witches would kind of solve our problem about, I wanted witches to be very feminine, but very powerful. And so the tattooing, we got to tattoo these sort of images to create their beards, which is in the language. But I thought it gave us sort of a guttural, visceral, dangerous, painful sort of idea or metaphor.
But Macbeth in particular,
Mm-hmm.
that tattoo,
Mm-hmm.
what about that choice?
Well, Macbeth's an interesting character, right? And so I think that he probably has some sort of deep. He's obviously for country, right? He's definitely for Duncan and for Scotland, and country over family. But there's some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Not prophecy about him, because he is the one who ends up killing Macbeth. Spoiler. So I think that he's sort of deeply rooted in this play. He's deeply rooted into the entire prophecy. So that's why I went that way with him.
And then over here, sure.
Hi. So I sort of general thoughts, so you have to kind of bear with it for a second. First of all, I'd just like to say that I absolutely loved the River last year, and I your production caused me to go out and find a soundtrack, and also he recommended Krauss, what is her name? Another singer who sang Alison Krauss. I think you like, yeah. So I also found her version of this song and absolutely love that. So thank you. One thing that came up in our discussion about that last night was misogyny. That it's really in the text that women are not supposed to be like Lady Macbeth. And it starts with the very famous "I'm sexing here" line, but there were several other places where it comes up again that she's not supposed to be doing what she's doing. So that was one thing that we talked about a little bit before, and I was like, no, this really is in the text. Like it's there. There's no getting around it. I think my actual question maybe, which may be unanswerable, is about the witches. We did really like the witches, by the way, and you used very effectively the trap, especially the first time the witches disappear, which is the one. So we're sort of wondering, like, what is their raison? Like, why are they doing all of this? Because at the end, all they have really done is put the rightful heir to the throne back on the throne. Like, that's the net effect of the entire play. And you inserted, which we both really like, the witches are there at the end. That is not in the text. But they're there to oversee the culmination of their work in your staging of it, which we like. So why did they do all of this?
Well, the way we approach the witches, it's a really hard thing to play for an actor, but we saw them as that they can see the future. Okay, so it's not necessarily that they're creating it, but they're just they're sort of seeing it, right? I don't know if you caught this, but also at the very end, as the witches are pressing down, young is up, but yeah. So that's where I was trying to connect them to him,
Which was another question that we had.
Because that's their prophecy, right? So not in history, but in Shakespeare's play, perhaps that does come true.
That was a belief in the early modern period that Humanized was the forebear of James's House of Stuart. So it's a little nod toward who that king is, and people believe that Humanized was that James descended from him. So I thought that was really nice. Think a little bit about what a prophecy is, and I like that you're emphasizing they don't actually do the things, right? They simply see the future. They say the things, and then Macbeth makes choices, right, with that information.
and I think the production really needs into that.
We talked a lot in rehearsal too about, I was a dramaturg on that, about how the witches are kind of just of the earth and they're kind of just ever present. And you can't get rid of them because they're always there. And to complicate Shakespeare's ending a little bit, Shakespeare's audiences would have been very familiar with the actual history because they were other people. And Donald Bain comes back in no history and kills Malcolm and starts over again.
So my question is, I've seen other productions. First of all, I love this production; it was wonderful. But one thing that was different was that I remember in other productions when Banquo, the ghost, appears, the audience basically sees him at the same point that Macbeth does. And it was kind of distracting and strange to me that the audience sees him so far before Macbeth does, and it didn't make sense to me why Macbeth saw him when he did, and so I'm hoping you can explain.
Sure, that is literally where Shakespeare's, well, our text now says, enter ghost. And then Macbeth's language doesn't see him until he sees him. So we just thought, we just fell in love with this idea of him walking down the stairs. And I do think that we play with the psychology, those little girls sort of wisping in and out, whether he sees them or feels them or not, but we do. So what I was hoping for is that we jumped into Macbeth's mind at that point, and as the audience, we get to experience that. So maybe he kind of sees something, but he's not dealing with it, and he's kind of pressing it down, and he's like, no, everything's whoa, and then it enters in, and it's a great theatrical way to demonstrate that he's kind of working about. Yeah.
One of the things is also conscience. If you think about the things that we're going to have, for those of you seeing Hamlet, we're going to have another conscience play. The two are written really close to each other. But if you think about what's happening in his mind, I think that makes nice sense with conscience and morality.
And then over here, Director.
Talk about the theme of time. It's a very fast-paced play. I'm just curious your interpretation of what is the period of time that passes that we're watching.
Yeah, I mean, Shakespeare. So we pull that thread and it starts to unravel a little bit. It's very quick. We get that one sort of clue with the old man when he says Tuesday last. So we're trying to figure out how much time has passed since the murder happened and Macbeth was gained. And that was probably about a week. It was really quick. And then more time goes by, and that's hard to tell because after 4-1, when the witches show him the apparitions, there is probably a couple of months that go by because his terror has reigned, and we don't see him. It's really, really interesting. He gets the prophecy that he's safe until Birnam Wood comes, and he can't be killed by man of woman born, and suddenly we don't see him for 18 pages. So, and he gets the news that Macbeth has fled to England, and he's gone literally for 18 pages. So to me, that was that a lot of time had passed. And the next time we see him sort of barbarically coming through, the things have all fled him. He has very little support. He's left with Satan. And some sort of you get the language from Ross about how horrible the country has become. So the decay has gone pretty far.
Some scholars speculate that this is a short or revised version of Shakespeare's play. The only version of this we have is from the 1623 first folio. Please go see Book of Will. You'll learn lots more about this. But we don't have an early quarto of Macbeth, like we do of Hamlet, like we do of Lear. And Lear and Hamlet, the quarto and the folio versions differ a lot. So some scholars speculate that there was a longer version and like to think which scenes were missing or what is the information that maybe was in an earlier version of the play. I think maybe you touched on that a little bit with this passage, these leaps of time and scenes that we don't see. It is Shakespeare's shortest tragedy. Script is short, text is short. Up here in front.
Yes, you're running these symbols there. You have a red thing going through it. Maybe you could explain what the red through the root was.
On the dais, on the ground, why don't you pass the microphone to Paula? He's gonna be able to answer this better than me.
So in terms of what, I mean, the red is like tied, the red generally is tied into the blood and into the sort of like, this kind of autumn imagery, this like fall from, you know, it's a fall, right? The play is about a fall. But specifically, the rune symbols that we use, the system that is a sort of system where one rune can sort of mean two things, depending on whether you inverted it or shown it. Like there's a sort of normal way that you would show it, which would be a good thing. It might mean like life and health and like that sort of thing. And then you flip it and it means sort of, you know, death and misfortune and that sort of thing. And so all of those symbols are tied to that, and the way they're arranged is if you're standing in the middle of the circle, you see the sort of evil omen of it. But if you're standing outside, it appears to be good. And so that's what those runes are sort of doing in this play, and that's how they're sort of.
And I think the big red, there's just a big red rune in the center.
Yeah.
And it's, they're sort of divided out. It's almost as if there's blood there that's never dried inside each of the runes.
I thought the branches ought to be bigger. Because who's gonna believe that this is the forest?
It's just a, well, also, we're in grass, so those branches have to live somewhere, while the other can't.
I wanted to say that I thought the out and spot was just fantastic. That's the best portrayal I've ever seen.
She's amazing.
Oh, Lady Macbeth was really good. The other thing about Banquo appearing is it made me feel like it wasn't just Macbeth's imagination, but maybe he's seeing what other people couldn't see. So I thought it worked out great.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because we did talk about the idea that once he has gone down the path, made the decision and killed Duncan, that he becomes closer to the witches, and that he can see more like they can see.
I thought you made a nice connection between Lady Anne and the witches with her conjuring and made that, it's in the text, but I don't know that IC Productions made it as clear.
Yeah, that was a lot of Katie. I mean, she really responded to this dais and these runes and what they meant, and she decided that she wanted to create a cone of power and step into it in order to have the bravery to ask for the dark side to enter her. So yeah, I mean, really, that was her creation.
And then here in the center with the blue jacket.
Hey, I was wondering with the petals falling, why those particular scenes?
Okay, so the first time we see a leaf drop, is right after they've killed Duncan. And we get just a little shimmer that the natural world is, the unnatural world is creeping into our world, right? And then the next time is the old man scene, which they're constantly talking about how the world is, in upheaval, horses and animals and things are out of joint. And that's sort of this slow trickle. And then the biggest one, of course, We refer to it as the Macbeth family murder. And I think that's the most, sort of horrific thing that happens in the play. And so, yeah, those are the three that we kind of latched onto. There were other ideas floating around, but we kind of went, these are the key moments in their destruction, in his destruction primarily. And I think that, the Macbeth murders in particular are probably what really sent Lady Anne over the edge. Losing him psychologically, metaphorically, viscerally, spiritually was the first start to her sickness. But when and how she finds out that he has caused that to happen, I think is when she splits in two.
Between the acts, there are a couple of stage hands who are out scrubbing something that's fallen onto the depth of the stage. And my daughter is next to me chanting, "Out, damn it, it's fine."
So when you talk about Lady Macbeth splitting in two, you see that as if mental illness had taken over her. And I was wondering how much is what they had done to others had created a mental illness or such suffocating guilt that they couldn't move forward, and how you saw that.
I think she experienced a psychotic snap or crack, and I think the first step is she loses him, right? So he starts in. So after they kill Duncan, then everybody finds out. His first sort of betrayal of the plan is he kills the two groomsmen when he and Lennox go up, and that's not part of the plan. And so in that scene, you see her realize, what did you do? Right? So he's starting to act on his own. And then the next time we see them together, he's completely, saying, God be with you. We're not going to spend this evening together, you go away with the things. And so this slow sort of, we talked about how we felt that they were soulmates, that they were so conjoined that they could finish each other's thoughts. The first scene that we see them together, there's very little language, but we think that they're talking sort of this way to each other silently. And so when she loses him and that connection, that's her first sort of jolt. And then, because I think that, she was willing to do it, and she wanted to do it because it made them powerful together. And she needed him and he needed her to do it. But if she doesn't have him, then what? She has nothing. Now she's committed murder. She's been part of this plan, and she doesn't have her partner. And so that's when I think that spiral starts to occur for her.
Over the course of the play, she speaks less and less. The first scene where the two of them are together in 1-5, he barely speaks. She has all the text. And in 1-7, same thing. She dominates the bulk of who does the speaking. And as they start to get more separate from each other, she speaks less and less. And her relationship to him declines, but she also has less agency.
And then in the back of the brown shirt, you can hold up the microphone so they can find you.
Yes, now I realize the role of Macbeth is a very difficult role. It was my feeling that on the first half of the play, he struggled a bit. It came together, it seemed, in the second half better. But there was a little less than convincing to me in the first part of the play. Just a little tricky.
Yeah, we are still in rehearsal. But yeah, I think it's a huge load to take on too, and to understand where you are at any given moment, to drop in to that moment. It's huge. It's a lot of text and it's a lot of stuff happening in your head. I'm sure there are scorpions in his mind.
I'm sorry, I came a little late. Somebody already talked about the entrance and exits of Banquo at the banquet. There's one thing I can ask, that, again, if this hasn't already been addressed, the idea, there's a lot of things in the play, speaking of Banquo, that I wonder, what Shakespeare, what his intentions were about when Hamlet says that he sees the knight and it disappears, or when saying he sees the ghost, or even maybe some of the stuff that happens with Lady Macbeth towards the end, how much Shakespeare's audience were supposed to believe that this was the natural result of their crumbling mental emotional states, or some guilt, or these were supernatural processes, cursing them, punishing them, making these things. Were these things actually there? Were they only in their minds? I guess what you could say is that what the director chooses to show and not show is hopefully an indication of how much we're supposed to take what we see literally. What's your thought about that stuff?
Well, my hope was that we sort of jump into Macbeth's mind, right? So the metaphor with the little girls and sort of the guilt, the horror, the shame, drifting in and out of his brain. So, the first exit of the witches, right? They vanished. That's what the script says. Okay, well, how do we do that? So they vanished, and we see them vanish, right? We as the audience member, we can see that. Then in 4:1, after the prophecy, after the apparitions, they vanished to Macbeth. It's in the text, but I had them hang around, right? Because I really believe that he can still feel the weight of them, of what they're doing to his psyche, and then finally he gets to, but no more sights. He's not going to deal with the supernatural world anymore, and then they are released to leave. So, there's a lot of different ways that we handled sort of the darkness and the witches and that world creeping into our world. And I think I played with maybe 3 or 4 different ways that we can see the witches or he is seeing the witches, because I just wanted to feel that pressure of that world on him constantly. It's a great theatrical tool, to have witches, because it's like, hey, I've got witches, I can go anywhere.
I've got a nice question. I wonder, Isabel, could you, I know as a dramaturg, and I saw this in your research, you did a lot of research on the witches, the supernatural beliefs at the time, 1606, James, King of England and Scotland. Could you talk for just a second about that, and then we'll go to the next question?
Of course. So King James was terrified of witches. In Scotland, before he was King of England, he burned about 1,000 witches. He was engaged to a princess, and he went himself to go get her, and a great storm overtook his fleet of ships. He didn't die, but a couple of his ships sank, and he blamed this on witches. And he got back to Scotland, and a bunch of women actually confessed because of, torture and what have you, and he burned them all. And so then James goes to England, and he writes a book called Demonologies, which is basically a handbook on how to find, catch, and kill a witch. So he's terrified of witches, and witches are so scary in this time period because it's just any single woman. I could be a witch, and it's usually a woman who's living alone, who has some cats, and I might be a healer. I have and so actually in the cauldron scene, a lot of those ingredients are actually just kind of spooky names for everyday products. So eye of newt is just mustard seed. And for Shakespeare's audiences, that would be terrifying because it means that anybody could be a witch, because all you need is to go into the woods and gather some things and put it in a pot, and you're a witch.
It also sounds like cooking.
It is. It's a lot of cooking. It's like making herbal, like a remedy in the time. However, for a modern audience, three very normal women around the pot is a little bit less spooky than an open cauldron that's bright red and putting in actual eyes and ears and owl's wings and things like that.
Thank you for that. And then here in the denim jacket.
My question has to do with Macbeth as a hero or anti-hero, conflicted hero. It's a theme that we encountered as we were, studying a little bit about the play. But that didn't really come across, like that he was somebody that we could relate to, and just made a wrong turn.
No, I like the idea of that. I think, I'm hoping that them as a couple will sort of get your heart in that tiny little scene and, because, I mean, actually, we think it's one of Shakespeare's healthiest couples. If you think about it in the beginning, the best marriages, they get one little scene to tell you that. I mean, of course, we're planning murder, but I mean, there really is love there. Yeah, there really is love there. So that was what we focused on. Is that it could have been a beautiful thing.
And then you're in the white hat.
Hi, a couple of comments. My friends and I were very interested, is there a source for the superstition about the play Macbeth? Does it go back to a certain moment?
Will you take this one? No, there's a long theatrical tradition of this, right? And I think, we've all inherited now. It was pretty fun last night when Brian Vaughn came on stage and dared the fates by saying the name of the play. But if you can look at theater history and certain incidents that have been related to this. It's just a long received tradition.
It's a theater superstition, not a Scottish superstition.
Yeah, it's a theater superstition.
The other thing I'd like to say, I'd like to congratulate Lady Macbeth for coming down those stairs without looking. I can't make 2 steps without looking. And then she came backward off the circular one, all while she was, acting her brains out right there.
Yeah, I'll let her know. She practiced a lot, She
would have not to.
But the thing is, we don't have the set, we only have the set, several weeks, but we're only on the set twice a week, for a couple of weeks, so she really had to. And especially barefoot too, and that was a whole nother thing.
Actors are athletes.
And then up in the center here, picture.
First, an operational question, and then I thought I'd share something from my daughter. The operational question, we did have the one moment in, sort of in the middle where Macbeth lost his line, but I was kind of amazed at how fast the person, sort of gave him his line. Like, was there a hint? Was there a clue? Anyway, you won't do that. I'm sure going for it. It was a dresser or someone. So anyway, that question, and then comment that my daughter made that the initial scene with the 3 girls and the boy, they're throwing around a crown. The boy's chasing it. As soon as he gets it, he dies. A metaphor.
Yeah, great, good, yeah. Good, I'm glad you got it.
But anyway, on the operational thing, was there a hint given?
So, I don't think so. Every show has a production assistant, and her job is to be on book, which is what we call it. So she was reading along, and Michelle's really good at her job.
And it usually only takes, they're so far into the process. When you get to that point, it usually only takes 1 or 2 words to get back on track. That's all the person needs. It's maybe even just 1 word to clue it in.
So it's a section that he's going really, really fast in too. And it's not necessarily a section that his mouth got ahead of his brain. So he just needed to reset. And that's fine.
Then in front.
Yes, I just wanted to compliment you on that fabulous stage. And I think Shakespeare would have felt comfortable putting on this play there. It was sparse, but it had all of the symbolism. It all worked together. It flowed. It was actually very magical.
Thank you.
This outdoor stage is great, and the design, again, our set designer is here, it's beautiful.
Last time, I thought it was pretty cool and it called for fine in character, at least that. I think most people listen. It could have been Shakespeare running their line.
Well, we know that Shakespeare's actors had cue scripts and had a prompter on stage. Again, I'm going to plug the Book of Will if you want to know more about that process. So you'll see it in the Book of Will. But Shakespeare's actors also worked in rep. They did different plays every day. They didn't have it all memorized.
And then back here in the plaid shirts.
Just a question about the set. Was that set specifically for that play?
Absolutely, yeah. Designed from concept to fruition for this particular production of Macbeth.
Because I was sitting in the center, pretty much in the orchestra area, and part of the set covered the actors who were trying to speak on the upper area. Really, because I couldn't see it, I thought this set must be.
There's a couple of seats that you might have been in where that jagged, that sort of off-kilter arch will get in your way. Absolutely. I'll take responsibility for putting the actor behind it. But we love the off-kilter sense of the archway, so we kept it. And I sort of like how it kind of looks like it's dangerous sometimes. It's getting in the actor's way. So I think there's like uncomfortability about it that sets us off in certain ways.
I also want to give a shout out to the stage crew, because as you were just asking, is the set just for this play? Yes. So there are entire sets for the other plays you're going to see, and they change it over every single production. So they come in after we get to go home, they are up all night, they're doing that changeover, and you'll see a completely new set that is just as fabulous, just as fully realized on the very next day. So the stage crew here, shout out to them, they're amazing.
Here's a question that others may have and not brave enough to throw in this effect. You've got an interracial couple, and we are not racially diverse in the state, nor 50 years ago with a casting interracial couple. And I just want to hear your comments, knowing this audience, I looked through this audience to look for racial diversity. It wasn't there. Any comments about that?
I really don't think about it. I may be liberal and naive to a fault. I live in New York City. I'm from San Francisco. We cast the actors that can do the roles. We're not making a statement about it. It's who they are.
Yes, yes.
We just said we cast the actors who can do the roles. So my question is, you were chosen to direct this play, and then when the casting came about, you had a voice in who was in which role?
Yes, somewhat. It's a huge matrix of 7 and then another 8. I don't know how many shows. Well, 6 are opening this week, 1 next week. So the casting, Brian really oversees the entire thing, and it is when I say it's a matrix, I'm not kidding you, because certain people can be in certain plays that need to rehearse opposite each other. Macbeth ended up being one of the biggest play where actors from a lot of different plays could feed into it. So yeah, I had a little bit of say, but sometimes it's like, well, this person, is coming from Henry, and I was like, oh, great actor, awesome. So it's a collaboration. The casting is a collaboration, but certainly you wouldn't I knew a bunch of these actors, I was happy with them, it's a great cast. So, I got really lucky too.
As you know, we're a true repertory theater, and most of these actors are in 3 shows. So the kids who are in, I come from age, the young actors who are in Joseph are also in the Green Show. We have 76 shows plus the Green Show, and then a couple more shows opening with Every Brilliant Thing and The Price still to come. But if you want to know more about these actors, and if you're watching, I think it's fun and rep to watch. You'll see actors in leading roles, and then another play they'll be in smaller roles. That big souvenir program that they sell is really great. You can get the full bios and pictures from the shows, but also find out more about what these actors are doing. But they're amazing to have to work through the 3 different shows, and then Brian and the director's doing the casting to put together this enormous puzzle that magically works. It's not magic, it's hard work and doing. And then here in the back.
We've been coming for 25 years. We always come the first week because the directors are here. And we get to hear what the secrets that they were going through during with the cast and the scene director during the whole production before we see the play. You know what I mean? Sit there and say, and the audience are always saying, oh, that's what they were trying to do, or that's why they did that. Somehow it seems like there's a way, now you have the director's notes here, and they were helpful about time and nature and the blood and the children. That helps a little bit to get an insight before we see the play. But most of the audience who went away, they're not asking these questions that we're hearing here today. They're not sure why they did this or why they did that. I guess the question is, is there any way to enlarge the audience understanding before they see the play, other than just a synopsis of the play?
Let Darcy take that.
I can actually answer this one. Something that we've done in the past, that we're trying to do more this year, is live streaming these seminars and archiving them on YouTube. As you can see, I have a kind of helter-skelter setup over there that I'm going to be improving for the next one. Hopefully, in the future, these director seminars will be able to be archived online so people can access them before the shows as they so like here. And then sometimes during orientation, we will get some more background information, but nothing as in-depth as these seminars. Hope that answers your question.
So the future audience can see this before they come.
Yes, sir.
And also, if you access the website, there are study guides and a few other surrounding materials if you want to study up.
And then here in the front.
So we had a question, and the last time we'd seen this, I had a similar question, and it's still not really understood it when they're delivering the news to Macbeth that his family's been murdered. When the person is initially asked, let's say Macbeth, they initially say, "Oh, how was my family? They're well. Oh wait, no, they're all dead." And just if you could explain what sort of interpretation has been done with that in the past.
Yeah, I guess there's this big question of who is Ross in the play. So there's that whole scene is about testing, right? So Malcolm puts Macbeth through 2 tests. And then when Ross comes to deliver news, he doesn't want to lose Macbeth right away. And so we wrestled with, is it just that you can't tell him, or that you don't want to tell him until you know that he's coming back to help? So I think it's a combination of both. In this production, it was important for me that we brought the emotional tragedy into the scene. So that's why I had Ross witness and then bring that visceral emotion back into the scene. So it's interesting because it is in the language, because they were at peace when I left them, can be construed a couple of different ways. Yeah, so I think it's a combination of both. It's a little bit politics and it's a little bit humanity.
And then right next to him, we're going to take 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're going to switch over for the next.
Okay, this is quick. I think that one of the big psychological elements of the death is they have children. Mm-hmm. No one is going to inherit the kingship if he makes it work. They make it work. And so the death winds up killing other children. I think that is
tragic and also kind of explains part of their yeah, and not, and, you know, his peers, his countrymen, kids, which is, you know, I mean, Leon's is basically his nephew, you know, that close, you know, that close. He doesn't get it.
That's one of the most famous questions, and if you're nerdy enough that you like to read scholarship, there's a very famous article called How Many Children Have Lady Macbeth? So trying to look into that question, I have given stuff and know how tender it is to love the baby that don't see, right? And we don't see any children, and directors really have to answer that question. Did they not have children? Did they have children that died? Did Lady Macbeth have children in the past? I think historically, one of the things you found.
Yeah, I mean, historically, in the source text, she's married before Macbeth, and has children with him, and then he dies in war, and all the kids die young, and she remarries. However, for actors, I have a less playable choice. We chose that they had possibly some miscarriages, possibly that was their baby that then died, which was the one that she's talking about, which is way more interesting for them to play. And the fact that she brings that up in that moment as a tactic is sort of like the worst thing you could ever say to your partner. So yeah, we wanted to raise the stakes.
I've always hated Macbeth. I never liked it. I've seen it several times. This is the first time I ever liked it. And it seemed to me that it was so evil, I just couldn't stand that. But this kind of seemed more humanized. Can you comment on that?
Great, that's great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely what I wanted. I think it's important to see them as people and to see them as ourselves who went down a path and, you know, led to our own demise. I think it's really, really important that we humanize them, or else it's really easy to sit back and watch them as just purely evil. We use the word evil, and then we got away from it really quickly. And I started to use words like deeper and darker and more committed and more focused. And if you're just really focused on something and it happens to be a dark path, then evil, it turns into evil, but they're not necessarily born evil.
And it's a series of choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's purple lives.
So I agree with your comment. I think it was very insightful. And the conclusion that I draw is that you brought out a new truth in this play. I'd like to thank you for it. Thank you.
So one more big healthy round of applause for this beautiful production. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to take about a 7-minute break if you meet the restrooms that are over in that direction, and we are going to be back at 10 o'clock to discuss Joseph, and we will also have that director with us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.